artists, and animators. Joseph Watson is a 2D rigging artist, motion designer, and instructor based out of England. He recently collaborated with the Eat Your Peas Animation Mentorship Collective on a short film pilot. And we invited Joseph onto our live stream to demonstrate two 2D props, which he rigged for that project, based on designs by Andromedhaz. They are a trumpet built using constraints, as well as a peacock tail with automated fanning and deformers. So, Joe, welcome to Toon Boom's Show and Tell live stream.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
We're really happy to have you. So, Joe, let's start with your origin story. What interested you in 2D rigging?
So initially, I was always kind of interested in 2D animation, but my background, so I started quite late. I started in the very end of my university, my undergrad university course, and I was actually studying sound design and music production. So I have like a very different background, more in sound than like visual stuff. But I always wanted to kind of like rope myself into starting. And I knew that if I was going to start, I'd need to like force myself into it. So I kind of like tied it into my dissertation so that I basically had to learn to animate or I would get a really bad grade or fail. So, essentially that's where I started. And I created my very first character rig. I've revisited that rig recently, and it is messy. There is stuff happening in there all over the place. It's very messy. But I mean, like the first rig, it worked. I was actually studying the effects of music and sound on people living with dementia to see if there was like a correlation between like memory loss and memory gain with basically just making like a simple memory game like with that. And that's essentially where I started. And since then, I've worked as like a lecturer teaching harmony rigging. I've worked like on various different personal projects and studio-based things. I do a lot of motion graphics at the moment, but I am currently looking to do more rigging stuff. So yeah, that's essentially where I'm at now.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the connection between music and animation because both are very much dependent on time.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% think it made things so much easier when I was starting out because, yeah, you just have the whole, you just drilled into a tempo. And then it's amazing how much that works when it comes to animation. It's like, we all, move in a time, so to speak.
If you don't mind me asking, what was your introduction to Harmony? Because there are different animation packages out there. Harmony is very much used for like 2D animation. What brought you to that suite?
So I did a lot of research when I was planning my entry into animation because I had my eyes on like a few. It was like it was either going to be like Adobe Animate or Flash, and then or like Toon Boom Harmony. I did also like look into Blender as well because I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go like down 3D specifically or 2D. But then I think it was Stacey Strong's videos on Stylus Rumble that really like pulled me in, and I was just like, okay, this looks like really fun. So I was that kind of dragged me in, and then I started with a free trial of Harmony Advanced. I wasn't quite ready to get sucked into the node view there and then. It felt like a bit too intimidating. So my first few rigs were built in Harmony Advanced. And then I was paying for a student license. And I basically upgraded that when I did get that, because I spent like on this project, like my housemates at the time would tell you, I just didn't leave my room for a month because I was just like rigging, then animating. And the animation was like 2.5 minutes long for my first animation. So I was spending probably like all day, every day for a month trying to get that done because I completely underestimated how long that would take. So
2.5 minutes is very ambitious for a first project.
Yeah, I just kind of threw myself in straight into the deep end without any armbands.
That is wild. I love that.
Yeah, but it worked. It worked.
Okay.
And I think, it was very yeah, from that point onwards, I was kind of hooked basically.
So we invited you to talk about two 2D prop rigs that you built for Eat Your Peas. How did you get involved with the team at Eat Your Peas, and what was that experience like?
So I very fortunately came across Lindsay through LinkedIn, and it was just before they launched this new pilot program that they've been working on now, and it's essentially like loads of people coming together from like all walks of life, all levels of experience, kind of coming together and collaboratively working on building an animation together from start to finish. So it's kind of like getting studio experience without obviously like the struggle of getting a role in the first place. It's like a first way of, I guess, like getting your like hat in the ring. So yeah, I was essentially very, very fortunate to come across when they were doing that. I signed up, and yeah, essentially the rest is history. These two props came from that, and I would hugely like, because there's still obviously you still sign up for it, and I would highly recommend anyone who's interested in getting into rigging to sign up for that. I think there's a link hovering around somewhere that might end up in the chat at some point.
Yeah, we will share those links. I also wanted to say too, I'm a huge fan of what Lindsay Noller is doing with Eat Your Peas. Lindsay used to be a trainer that worked with Toon Boom Animation, and has since been working on her own projects. I think it's really cool to see projects that encourage collaboration between artists. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So two of the props that you demonstrated on LinkedIn were a trumpet that was built using constraints, and a peacock tail, which fans as you move the feathers. Right now, it's the peacock tail that's on screen.
Yes.
Which of these props would you say was the most challenging to build?
Oh, the trumpet, hands down. So the peacock feather, it's I kind of built it with things that I was already fairly competent at, or at least what's the word? Like, I was quite familiar. I'm very familiar with limiters. I really enjoy limiters. I think most people find them quite scary, but if you really get to know them, they're absolutely fantastic things. So I built these with a lot of limiters, and I felt very at home with it. The trumpet, that was experimental. that took a long time to get right.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things you're telling me too is that like the trumpet, it's a 2D, like entirely made using 2D geometry, but it looks like it's 3D.
Yeah.
Or you can move it around as if it's in 3D space.
Yeah, so it appears that it looks like it's a master controlled like grid setup. But it's not. It is literally just like basically using multi constraints, weighted deformer, and then just a bunch of other constraints. Complicated. I was thinking we could maybe start with the peacock first, unless you want to see the trumpet.
Let's take a look.
But I was thinking,
so could you give us a tour of the peacock fan as you would show to an animator that was using these props for the first time?
Sure, absolutely. So this is the whole rig together here. There's a bunch of different controls like on the surface of it. So you've got this turquoise one up here. Like you've got these three circles here. So the orange, the blue, and the turquoise. You've also got these diamonds here in the middle, and you've got like the big thing there, which is just, well, it's basically the whole prop there. You move around with that, and then a little red square there. So I'll go through the controls one at a time. So for the automatic fanning, you essentially click on either of these circles here, and you just rotate it, and it just automatically just fans out. Just super simple. Either side just works exactly the same. It's literally just a matter of clicking and rotating, which is very satisfying when I got that right. This middle one, also, if you rotate it, it like shifts the ones next to it slightly, so you can get like just a little bit of extra automation there. So that's like most of the limiter work there. So essentially, this one, when you move it with this controller, it moves at 100% of the speed of the rotation. Then this one is 75, this one, you know, less so and less so. So it's yeah, essentially just mathematically programmed in, just it would move the correct amount for it to, yeah, basically fan out evenly. So that's why I love limiters, is so you can just get things exact. You know, it's very satisfying. These little diamonds that are now moved around with there. So all of these have curve deformers on them. If I got something in the way there. So you see all of these have curve deformers on them. This diamond is function linked so that these all move at the same time. And you can stretch them as well with the scale. So essentially, I just wanted to put this in here to make it like just super convenient. It's all in one place.
Well, it also gives a sense of volume too, so it doesn't look like a paper doll just sort of fanning out. That gives it depth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's so fun to squash and stretch it as well. It's kind of got like a really nice, yeah, that worked very, very nicely. But the only issue with this is that it does kind of, you can just reset them all together as well. Okay, yeah, never mind. I did originally leave this one out so that this one could be like moved separately, because now that they're all linked, they do have to all move together. There are ways that you could get around this. Like I'd probably create like another drawing and then have that like unlinked, so that they would all have exactly the same like curve deformer, but they would all be essentially separate,
right.
Which could be quite simple to set up. But yeah, so that's the main movement controls out of the way. The next one, you can see there's like shading on each of the fans, like this ever so slight shading. Like you can just about kind of pitch it out. So this red square here, it's kind of annoying that you have to go all the way out to do this, but if you can see that, it kind of, you know what, yeah. I'm gonna make that darker so it's easier to see. I think it's this one. Yeah, okay. It's only working on one side. Interesting. I don't know why it's doing that. So you can see now, I do this. Oh yeah, there we go. That's why we were just all the way. So you can, just by rotating, have this like shadow effect that also still kind of like moves with it as well. And that was some really weird.
Very cool. Like, how do you have the shadow set up, by the way?
So this is actually using the same drawing. So the if I bring up drawing substitutes up here.
So it's acting as like a mask cutting itself?
Yes, essentially, but it's so it's all the same drawing. Is it going to work up there? There we go. And so the actual drawing itself, I just go to drawing. It's not wanting to open for me, but I can bring this up here. It's not letting me. This is being a bit annoying. 2 seconds. To bring some tools up here somehow. They're going to snap up here. Oh, it's not playing game. I'll move the whole thing up. So essentially we've got it as an underlay. So this is like the drawing all together. The shadow that you see is just the underlay of the drawing. And I've used like a bunch of apply peg transformations to move that. And yeah, so basically the underlay layers are all being moved separately, rather than it being a separate drawing. It's all part of the same, which is just the kind of, yeah, the way that I decided to do it in the end.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I think maybe next time I would do it as a separate thing. But I kind of wanted to see if I could get this to work the way I wanted it to, and it worked. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
Does it still work when you do the thing where it warps?
Oh yeah. So because it's still the same. So it does kind of, yeah, no, it does still, you can see the shadow is warping there.
Well, that's very good.
So it's all part of the same drawing that's being deformed there. So it's, yeah, it might have been why I did it in the first place. Then you can see it just kind of like appears on the middle one when it's, yeah, going over. This middle one is separate, but it does also have its own deformer too. But it just didn't make sense to have it
very
included.
cool.
But yeah, I was very, very, very happy when I got this to work. It was very satisfying. And it just kind of tucks away neatly. Or kind of neatly. Just got to reset all of the transformers. Otherwise it doesn't quite match as neatly as it could. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, very fun to mess around with. You're kind of absorbed in it after a while. It should just wind back now. Yeah. So then, if you look at the node view as well, I spend a lot of time making my node views nice and neat. So I feel like it just makes it so much easier to kind of see what's going on if it's like quite like a neat and put together. But
I just want to say too, I want to call out, I like that you put notes in the backdrops. I don't see a lot of people doing that, and I think it's always very helpful.
Oh yeah, so like this was actually like one of Lindsay's suggestions, and I took it to heart because it was like it was such a good idea because it, again, with complicated stuff as well, and if you're just passing a prop onto somebody, and then you've got like a few like keyframes at the bottom that position it to show you what it does, but it doesn't always. I mean, like you can just see a thing moving around, and it's like how do I do that? Like what controls do I use? So it's made it so much easier. And then it's also like I put a little thing as to where to attach it to a character as well. This was for the P character that we've got. I've got both props attached to the P, but we'll get to that after we've seen them. But yeah, if you see this is the limiters, the limiter function here, and then like the I like static transformations as well. I feel like they're very, very useful to like permanently change the position of something without being able to accidentally change it back with like by resetting a peg or something. Because resetting pegs can obviously, if you do that and everything's permanently changed, moved somewhere, and then you reset a peg by accident, like all hell breaks loose. But I use it here just to basically put each fan backwards in the Z space, like like further away from the camera, which is why they all fan out the way they do. These three limiters here are adding the influence of the middle one. So this one here, this is like adding, like when this moves, it moves like these ones ever so slightly. And these three here, this is when this tail feather moves. The other control moves, this one moves at 100% of the speed, and these are like slight reductions. I believe that is like 100%, 75. So 75, 50, and then 25. So they're all opening up on my other screen. So 25, 50, and then this one's 75. It's probably very small. You probably can't read that, but it's there. Do we have any questions on the rig? Because I feel like maybe it's a good idea to open up some questions on each one after we have a little look.
Yeah. I have a question for you, actually. So what part of this, what took you the longest to figure out?
I think the base of it. So down here, and this is a bit that probably could still do with some fixing. If I go onto render view, you can see like I need to make this line bolder here. I need to redraw it a few times to make it like go over the top. But essentially this is actually like a circle. So it looks like this. And then as it goes, as all the fans fan out, it's like it's essentially like it's a mask. But by just having it as a mask, it kind of, it made like a big like space on the outside where like a lot of this color was showing. So it was kind of similar to this problem here, but a lot bolder. So there's like another like circle that's going around the outside that's cutting it from the other side as well. So it's like it kind of squishes it in a bit more. And getting like that right was quite annoying and frustrating, even though it seemed quite simple at first. But then also maybe the shadowing stuff. So getting all of these to work how I wanted to, like that took like a little bit of time. And you can see like on this view, it breaks, but in the render view, it's fine. So for a while I was like, oh, it just isn't working. Like, what have I done here? Why isn't it working? And then I put it in render view. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like I've just been
Okay, that's just OpenGL being a little bit difficult.
Yeah, it was just struggling a little bit because it was like, why are you asking me to do all this stuff?
We've got some questions in the chat, and I see a lot of familiar faces right now, including Lindsay, Shane Plant over at, he's been doing some very interesting stuff with, what was it? It was Wizard and Champion, I think, is the short that he just published.
Oh, amazing.
But his comment was, no questions, my mind is blown.
Oh, thank you so much.
A lot of very, very positive comments. Pat Bradley mentioned that your node view is a work of art. And Lindsay wants to know, how did you start planning out something like this?
So it was straight away when I knew that the peacock feather was going to fan out. I was straight away like limiters, you know, like I use limiters in everything. I use limiters too much, you know, like I'm obsessed with them a little bit. So I was like looking for an excuse to use them. And I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. I did also get recently quite into doing the whole function linking thing, which is what the deformer is. So essentially, like, it's kind of like cloning the deformer doing this. But rather than cloning the whole deformer, what you're doing is, if I go into one of the deformers here, so yeah, these are like, so this is the child offset and the child curve here. I've got on another one, I think it is this one, the parent offset and the parent curve. So on these, what I've done is the like orientation information here, you can copy it and then you can paste it into another one. So essentially it's copied from here, the bits that I want to have like basically save that. I'm pretty sure I copied all of it to make it work the way it does. And then just you paste it in. You can also, I think, because I did use all of it, I may have done this instead, but I think you can just copy the whole group and paste a group. And I know cloning is like kind of scary and you can get some really messed up results with it. But if used in the right place, I think it's really helpful. And it saves like a lot of time. And for this, it worked extremely well because it just automates things to a level where it's like you can still kind of, you have a lot of independence to make it look the way you want it to without it being, it's like a nice balance between automation and freedom, I guess.
I think that's really cool. I know there's a lot that you want to show. So do we want to move on to the trumpet rig?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let's do it. So the trumpet. Oh, geez. Yeah, this is a lot. So I yeah, I really wanted to challenge myself with this one. So this is the trumpet. The node view is still fairly neat. I spent less time making it neat because I was like, I really need to focus on actually getting it to work. That's the important thing. So it looks,
just really quickly, I just want to say, like, when I started working at Toon Boom Animation, it was like right as we added master controllers into Harmony. So I saw like the very early version of that before they added the grid wizard. And so my understanding of like I know that we can have things that look 3D that are 2D, and using some trickery that can make things really easy for posing. You've gone a different approach to like making a prop that works in 3D space, even though it's 2D.
Yeah. So this is as if it was made in a grid wizard, but without the grid wizard. So this is just constraints. There's only one deformer in it, but it's it is just constraints. Again, very very experimental, which is my style. There are bits which you have to manually do. But I mean, again, it's a matter of clicking on a box and rotating. So it's not taking a long time to sort out. There are points where it breaks. So if you go all the way to the side, you see like it really does start to do some weird stuff. But if you go here, I've built in this little control here where you can just turn it off, and then you just have like that's like a 90-degree angle kind of situation. Oh, I just realized I think I went too far and I turned it double off. Let me just find the control there. Control, sleep horn, there it is. On, yeah, there we go. Oh, I never built an off button. I swear I did. Yeah, anyway, yeah, so you can still turn it off and on. But yeah, the button doesn't have a thing. So to make that work, that's basically just using some blink drawings. So the drawings are all kind of linked together. When let me just have a little look if we can see. I moved drawing substitutes up here. That's why I can't find it. That's why. Oh, for some reason it's jumped all the way over there. Okay, some weird stuff has happened. But there we go. So there is an off button, but you have to go twice. You have to move through two drawings to get to the sleep one. But yeah, so that just turns it off. Also, this is all linked to. So if you can see, like, as I move through the drawings, it's like this is where it differs from like a master controller as well, because you have to, if you go to like one side, the illusion is broken, so you have to change, basically tap onto the drawing, and it switches all of the drawings out because they're all linked. And there's one for like down as well, and there's also one for up. The up is a little bit broken still. I never really quite figured out how to get it to work properly. I think I have an idea now, but yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it doesn't function quite the way I wanted it to. But if you keep it on like left or right, for example, you can kind of get away with it anyway. Like, it kind of does roughly what you expect it to do. And for the like the purpose of the trumpet, for what it was being used for, I mean, already this is overkill. It didn't need to have like all of this. I mean, I don't think any prop needs to have this. But yeah, it was never going to be facing away from the camera, and it was never going to be like facing up very much. And maybe like the most, I think it was going to point down a little bit. But the animatic that we were working to, it wasn't basically moving around all that much. So I made a prop that moved around massively.
You also showed too on LinkedIn that all of the pistons, I don't know if that's the technical term for the buttons on a trumpet.
Yes.
But they all animate.
Yeah. So these all, yeah, they all move. They all like squish around. I've made it so you can basically stretch them by scaling, or I'm pretty sure, oh, you can move them around. I didn't lock it. Usually I try and lock things in if I'm going to use them like that. So like the scale's locked, so you can't skew it. And you can't so basically it means by doing this, whatever angle it's on, it'll always skew, scale the way you want it to. So now it's still doing the thing. The line does grow. But I kind of like that. I know that's kind of like a bit taboo with some animation. Oh, hello. That's doing some interesting things. But yeah, I know it's a bit taboo, but it's I think for some things, for this it's kind of okay.
Yeah, well, I think the reason why I really like seeing experimental rigs is I think I more or less know how rigging and harmony works. And then I see something and I'm like, no, I don't know anything about how this works.
Oh yeah, this is another bit of a brain melter. So the deformation in here, you can just spin it around. And
wow.
it just kind of, so you can make the reflection inside the trumpet look like it's coming from any angle. Which I was so pleased when I got this to work, because I was like, I don't think this is going to work. I think this is crazy. This is a weird idea. And then it worked. I was like, that's ridiculous. And that's,
I have a lot of affection for fake 3D stuff. So this is like candy to me.
Yeah, amazing. But it's again, it's you can make it do some really strange stuff if you stretch it out. You see, it's kind of the illusion completely breaks. But I can actually show you, I set up an example of what's actually going on there, separate from the trumpet, to make it seem a bit more, I guess, look a bit more familiar. So if I disable that for 2 seconds and find it. So this is an example here. So what we've got here is a multi-point constraint. Very important. It has the allow perspective transform option here. That needs to be on for this to work. And then what we've got here is a bunch of pegs. And if you notice where the pivot points are, so AU is A side and up. And you've got BU, which is B side and up, which is, just all the way across the other end. AL is A lower, and BL is B side lower. And that's all put into the multi-point constraint. And then you've got a control, and then a clone of the control, which essentially doubles the speed of how it works. But now if we basically move this around, you can see how it's warping the cube to make it see. And then when the trumpet glitches out, this is the line that we're crossing. This is when it goes strange. So yeah, and then
very cool.
The inside of the trumpet, so the actual reflection bit that I was rotating before, if I enable that, and now if I move it around, so this is essentially using the same pegs, the same 4 pegs and the same control, but the difference is that this is plugged into a weighted deform rather than a multi-point constraint. And now if you move it, you can kind of see they act very differently. You can kind of see how it's something, you can kind of work with, kind of trick some kind of perspective with it. So it's very, very fun, very weird. And that's essentially the kind of the bare bones of the trumpet, plus some other constraint wizardry.
Okay, so I have to ask, which part of this took you the longest to figure out?
I think it was, I think it was probably this part here with the the rotating reflection on the inside of the trumpet. That for me, good. I was you can see there's another drawing in here, and there's another 2 drawings in here. So like this darker circle here is actually made up of like 2 separate. So there's like the original multi-point sphere system here, which is the very large circle, the trumpet, and then there's 2 other ones which are slightly limited, so that it kind of, they're slightly slower. So that's why you get like a kind of 3D effect, is because it's moving not quite as fast as the rest of the trumpet, so it's like lagging behind. So it kind of looks like it's like inside the rest of the cone. And I think, yeah, getting that right and getting these limiters here. 77 is the magic number apparently for X and Y. I had to just work that out by eye, just experimenting with it. This one is 80. The magic number was 80 for that one. But that was just through experimentation, just trying to get it right. Also the whole front of the cone can be moved forwards and backwards on the Z-axis, so you can get like that, because originally it didn't work like that, and getting that to work was a little tough, because with the like deform and stuff, things were getting a little bit confused. Harmony doesn't like you doing things in it sometimes that it really doesn't want to do, which is understandable, because I think this is very experimental. It's amazing what you can do, but this really pushed the limits.
And you also mentioned too that in addition to these props, you've also built a face rig using similar techniques.
Yeah,
and I think we have some time, so maybe we should get into that.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
I also want to say too, while you're doing that, there are a lot of comments excited about the sort of reflection inside the trumpet,
nice.
including suggestions that maybe it could be useful on vehicles and other sort of metallic props.
Oh yeah.
Because I think there is kind of interest in having a lot of compositing effects and lighting effects on rigs, and I think that presents a lot of opportunities.
Oh, that's really cool.
So do you want to first explain like what this rig was made for, like what the application of this was?
Yeah, sure. So for this one, it was basically I was tasked with making a bunch of emojis for a Discord channel. So it was this is Albert Einstein. He's like, I'm pretty sure this is in 32 by 32 pixels. It might be a little more. I think I might have increased it to make it look a bit better. But yeah, essentially I was tasked with making a bunch of emojis. I was like, like when you think of emojis, you think of how many emojis there are. And I was like, I want to build something that makes this easy. Like, I don't want to be sat there, like pulling my hair out, trying to basically just build like thousands and thousands and thousands of, Einstein emojis. So I'm like, I want to make this as easy as possible, and also have like an excuse to spend loads of time rigging, so that's what led me to build this. And again, this is not there's no MC on this at all. So you basically grab Einstein by the nose, and then you can just pull his face around. And yeah, we were talking earlier when I was showing this, it reminds, it's like a kind of like Mario, or like a kind of Nintendo character or something, like that kind of.
Yeah, like from Mario 64, where we squish the face around, pulling the mustache.
Yeah. So like that kind of vibe.
I can hear the theme song.
So this is using, again, the multi-sphere constraint stuff. This is all constraint based things. The nose is separate from it because like I wanted to get it to work like this, and limiters, again, like obsessed with limiters. I find a use for them everywhere. So the nose just does nice 3D nose stuff, even though it's like 2D. And yeah, there's loads of controls all over the place, because I was like, I don't mind if it's lighting up like a Christmas tree. For me, it's like I know what everything does, so it's not too distracting. But there we go. If I do that, then that's, you can see. But then there's if I play through some of the So like the hair has like a spring on it, like a dynamic spring. So it kind of gave it a bit more of a something.
Yeah, a bit of secondary animation.
Exactly. Like, but it's free secondary action, so I didn't have to do anything. Which is why I tried to make it more complicated, because I was like, how much can I automate here? So that's essentially what he can do.
I think what's also interesting too is because you're making these animations for an emoji that has to fit in like a Discord reaction. So it has to like read at like really, really small sizes. So like that's why like the gestures are so big, and I think that works. And I'm very interested in animation outside of video, like seeing animation in user interface elements and in places where you might not think about it being animated, but it's animated.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's because it's not just like TV stuff, not just films and stuff. It's like loads of like niche little things where you can just find a use for Toon Boom Harmony. You know, I actually made my CV in Toon Boom Harmony because I got so frustrated with InDesign and stuff. And to be fair, like my subscription ran out, so I was like, oh, I'll just make it in Harmony. So which is definitely not a conventional use. Maybe, I don't know.
I guess that's one use for the export PDF function.
Yeah, that's exactly what I use. Which is a bit wild. I really like the eyes on this actually. The pupil moves faster than the iris, ever so slightly, and the highlight moves slightly slow, like very slowly as well. I think it scales weird as well. It scales very weird.
You can get kind of a squid pupil.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then just all the bits kind of, you can just take off everything if you really want to. And then things can get really strange very quickly. I think moving him around has some weird stuff. So this head would never work if you stitched it onto a body, because of the way that I built it. I came across lots of problems, and I didn't need to find solutions for this rig in particular, because again, it was never going to be stitched onto a body. It was always just going to be this head. I have since figured out how to fix those issues, which is what's been included in like the trumpet and the other things since then. But like with this, it kind of uses some kind of like janky, like apply peg like solutions, which kind of like force like the images to kind of work together, rather than making them play nicely and rigging it properly. Which is why you've got like dynamic head move and then like master head. I think dynamic head makes it go, oh yeah, it goes all over the place. Does this actually work? Yeah, so that only works because there's like an apply peg transformation right at the very bottom of the rig. So, oh yeah, and I made this extra neat. I forgot about that. This is, you see how complicated this is now. Geez, I completely forgot what this looked like. I went to town on this rig.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about like unconventional rigs is you can really see how many possibilities are just like outside of the scope of most production rigs.
Yeah. There's just so much you can do. Like it's like almost like limitless software. You know, there are some limits, but they're so far away, and there's so many combinations of different things that you can try. And if something doesn't like work properly, you kind of like, you can find ways of making it work differently. And that's like the best thing about rigging, I find personally, is just the problem solving of it. You know, you're constantly trying to find new ways of doing stuff, or just following conventional ways. But like even following conventional ways, you'll have like certain characters or props that will have problems that you have to figure out. And then that leads you to making a weird 3D trumpet, or a peacock that fans itself, or Albert Einstein, basically.
Yeah. Lindsay actually sent us a message. She wants to know, are any of these features reusable, or do you have to rebuild them every time?
They are reusable, yeah. So with the multi-point sphere stuff, you can, so everything's built around like the center, so everything's built around 0. So if you if I go back to like the other one, here's one I made earlier, you can essentially, because we've got this multi-point example here, like I could chuck like anything into here. Let's just say like random thing, right? And I just put this on here and just like chucked it in. Like I can just put like any drawing in here. Say like, I'm going to disable that. So like I've just chucked a random drawing in here. It's not on center. It's just a random circle. But then I can still, it's still straight away, like just plug straight on.
Wow.
And the top of this, like there's a master peg for the sphere that you can just move around. So once you've got like that, you can use it anywhere on like a prop, and it's not going to act strangely when you try and like integrate it into something that you've already got. It behaves well with like a master peg that's controlled under something else. So that's reusable. What else is like fairly reusable? The limiters are a bit more specific to, I guess, what you're working on. So the peacock tail, for example, like, and also the trumpet, like when I was saying the magic number here is 77, the magic number here is 80. Like those are just two examples where I had to fumble around and figure out what worked. The peacock tail was quite nice because mathematically it made sense because of how many feathers there were. So I literally just dialed in, 75, 50, 25, 0.
Ratio.
Yeah, exactly. So that, that works nicely. But I suppose like it's, that's the wondrous thing about those is that, it's so mathematical. It's very simple. The only problem with recycling limiters is maybe like the point, like the transformation, like limiter point, because they essentially have something quite similar to a pivot point, but built into a limiter. So if I find a limiter, so you see here, it's like a little pivot point you can move. And if you move it like out of place, things happen, really strange things happen. So what you want to do is essentially put them like in like a good place for where they work. For example, this, I think pretty sure it's like on the same pivot point as the tail itself. Yeah, it's exactly the same. And that's where it works. But again, if you were to recycle this and use it for another thing, that might cause some really disastrous results, basically. And might be running around for ages wondering what's going wrong. And then it's all been because one tiny little limiter just has like a really strange, like transformator limit, just off to one side.
Yeah, we're getting some questions in the chat. Shane Plant wants to know, how did you find this approach to animating and rigging in Harmony? I know that like a lot of the constraints reminds me a lot of Ollie Putland's work, and he does the cat class stuff. So like what sort of resources did you sort of draw and build from?
So like when I first started out, it was like very much like Stacey Strong and like Stylish Rumble stuff. And I still, to be fair, like I watched one of her tutorials like quite recently, and it was really helpful. It was to do with basically getting rid of like the cutting issues. Like sometimes like you'll cut something and then it'll look fine in OGL, but then when you render it, you can like still see like the color poking through, or something's not quite right there.
Like aliasing issues.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I learned very, very recently how to fix that through one of her tutorials, which was brilliant. But then I Ollie Putland. I basically, like, I've got a few of his books. I've used like a lot of his work. It's very, very, very good. I really highly recommend checking out his stuff. It's amazing. Very, very technical and very complicated. But like, again, like I was introduced to this constraint method through Ollie. He used it for like eyeballs. And I think he's moved on to using it for like faces and stuff as well. I haven't checked that out, but I'm sure it's amazing. But yeah, I've kept up to date, or tried to keep up to date with his stuff, because he's so good, so good. But then also like with Lindsay and stuff as well, with the Eat Your Peas and stuff. Like, there's so much stuff that I've realized that I didn't know about, you know, rigging for like, you know, for series and stuff and TV. So again, like, I can't recommend more signing up for Eat Your Peas, because it is like, I mean, you're just working with like a bunch of industry professionals who will basically show you magic, show you how to do stuff. And,
I think Lindsay is an excellent resource if you want to know how to rig for TV productions. Another really good person to follow too would be Brain, who shares fantastic resources for rigging and Harmony Premium. I think I'm going to ask one more question before the last question.
Sure.
Do you have any advice for artists who are interested in prop and character rigging? Not necessarily resources, but like what's sort of like an approach or way to think about it?
I would say, so I started out just throwing myself into loads of tutorials and locking myself in the room for like a month to force myself through, you know, my university dissertation, forcing myself into learning to animate. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. I'd recommend like, basically following people who are in the industry. Like the people that we've suggested on here are fantastic. I would definitely check them out, because I think having that like a helping hand at the beginning, it just makes a huge difference. And I kind of wish I had that, you know, when I was starting out. So I would highly recommend also finding rigs online. Like, there are loads of rigs that people have made and submitted for free online on like Gumroad and things like that. I would take them, like, just check them out, like download them, open them up, deconstruct them, kind of like get an idea of how they look, how they like work. And even if you don't understand it, I think it's still worth doing it, because then you can kind of build an idea. And then the next time you like download a rig, you'll be like, oh, I've seen this before. And then you might understand it a little bit better. And then just build your own stuff. Just try and build your own stuff.
And Lindsay also mentioned that they can send these rigs to anyone who signs up to the ERP's email list.
Yes.
And they've dropped the link in the chat. We can also include a link to in our stuff.
Yes. So if you do want to check out either of these links, if you sign up to the ERP's mail list, you will be able to just download these rigs and check them out for yourself. And it's like, I'd recommend doing that even without those rigs being on there, because again, it's a fantastic program. So yeah.
All right. And my very last question, the most important question is, Joe, where can our audience go to see more of your work?
LinkedIn is probably like my prime place. That's where I hide most of the time. So I think LinkedIn is the best way to find me. I think is the link appearing in the chat. But feel free to like connect and follow. And also, like, I'm happy to answer any questions, any rigging stuff. Like, feel free to find me. YouTube, I didn't actually share a link to that. I do have some really old stuff on there that I could probably find. Is it worth me just throwing that link after the stream's finished, or should I quickly find
sure.
it?
I mean, we will also include it too on the packaged version that we published on YouTube. In the show notes there. We're happy throwing links to interesting work.
Amazing, thank you. Well, the Artstation link, to be fair, because like again, it's like LinkedIn and Artstation, probably like my two main outlets at the moment. Artstation has links to YouTube stuff anyway, and I'm sure people will be able to find stuff from there anyway. So yeah, that's basically where you can find the stuff.
All right. Joe, thank you for taking time to discuss building 2D prompts with Harmony And thank you to our audience for joining us for today's show and tell session. If you enjoyed today's discussion, you might be interested in trying the latest version of Harmony. In Harmony Premium 24, we added new features for 2D, 3D hybrid productions, including enhanced support for 3D models and a new tune shader to help those 3D models blend in with 2D artwork. You can download the 21-day trial from our website. The website is toonboom.com. We also recently added a new streaming calendar to our blog. So each month we now share a list of all upcoming live streams, including our upcoming art stream with Renee Rivers using Storyboard Pro on Tuesday, February 18th. You can find a list of all upcoming live streams at blog.toonboom.com. So thank you all for listening, and be sure to tune in next time.